All right, welcome to this week's episodes of Nerds and Friends. I'm Josh Lindquist, and I have our co-host Carey DuVal here. And our guest this week is Caleb Whittle.
Hello, hello.
Hey, how's it going, buddy?
Happy to be here.
Happy to have you.
Going well. Going well.
Awesome.
Good to have you here.
Well, our first question to jump into things, we want to hear about the art projects you got going on that you've mentioned here and there, so we're looking forward to hearing about that. But first off, Caleb, you've recently started playing Dungeons & Dragons with me and Carey, so tell us about how you've been enjoying that experience so far.
It's been great. It's been fun. I like the way we have it set up via text through Discord is actually really great for beginners like myself.
Nice.
Because you don't have to dedicate hours, and I feel like if I were to join like a group and have it over video, as a beginner, it seems a little overwhelming, or like not knowing what all I can do, and it being kind of virtual via text, and there's like long pauses. If I have any questions, it's super easy to like look things up, that way and have the time. So I think the way we have it is really fun, and it's fun the way we have it set up. Although sometimes I get into it and then I want, people to respond quick and
Yes.
and carry the story along. But it's super fun. It's fun using my imagination.
It's the give and take versus play by post versus playing at a table. Rather, you get that instant feedback at a table or over video, but you do really get to learn the ropes well over play by post, and the whole Discord thing we got set up is really good for getting down your roles and everything.
For sure. Yeah. And it's funny how many parallels, since it is my first time playing it. I grew up playing video games like Skyrim and Fallout, etc. And I'm like, hey, there's a lot of like cues from Dungeons and Dragons that these games pull from. And it makes it a little more like known, right? Like it's like, oh, I've experienced this before. I have something I can picture while we're playing that makes it, a little more, a little more friendly in a way.
Yeah, you got a touch point from it. That's and Josh here does a particularly good idea. If I can kind of dote on him for a second as a DM, he's got a really well put together sense of geography and mechanics, the way he puts things down on paper, and having him kind of feed that to you in text is a really from an old school nerd perspective, it actually really captures the feel of the play by text adventures that and the forum stuff that I used to do when I was a real young kid. Online in the early days of the internet, when you logged on with rock and hopes and dreams.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that, Carey. Much appreciated.
Josh, I actually have a question for you. How long does it take you to put together or formulate the story of what we're playing in Dungeons and Dragons?
So it definitely depends on what we're going through. With play-by-post, it's been really interesting because I can kind of just during those long pauses be prepping new things, which is really handy for me to be able to do that. But it really depends. I mean, I kind of already have the overarching plot in my head. I've had this kind of story and this world in my head for a couple of years, actually. So when it comes down to the exact like dungeons and stuff, then it's kind of, I'll spend one day like crafting out, what's going to end up being played over the next week or two. So like I've had the runes that you guys are in currently planned for a couple weeks now, which is fun. So kind of shifts around that way. But it's been an adventure doing play by post for sure. But I think with everyone's schedule and everything and being in different states with the pandemic going on, it's been a good fit for sure. So
for sure.
Yeah.
Good exercise. And you get to create that illusion of you've obviously got a whole bunch planned out, but the cool part about having things planned out is you have the illusion of this being fully thought out, and you also get to kind of bounce off the players, which Kev talked about Skyrim and those kind of video games where it's like you can do whatever you want. There's a sandbox element, but if you follow in the story, there's like 3-4 paths you can go with a couple of minor variations. Like It's kind of the cool thing about Dungeons and Dragons and like art and storytelling in general.
Oh yeah, no, because I have ideas of what you guys are gonna discover or be faced against, but I have no idea how it's gonna go from there. And already a lot of the bigger ideas I've had have already been changed based on where you guys chose the first city to go to. I was like, oh well, those other 3 ideas I got to retool those to be for this city now and stuff. So it's there's a good improv element there that's really helped me with my writing, just to kind of have to adapt stories to different settings or kind of change things on the fly. So it's been really helpful for me as a writer. For sure.
Very cool.
Nice. Yeah. See, those things I don't even think about as we're playing, or what the implications of a DM will be based off of this decision I'm about to make.
Yeah.
It's a cool aspect.
It is.
That's the illusion.
The illusion. So Caleb, what stuff have you been working on? The last time we talked, you were talking about some projects you have going on. I'd love to hear about those.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's some stuff I've been working on for quite a long time, on and off, because as we all know, our day jobs tend to get in the way of, funner projects that we may have.
Definitely.
And I recently started a new job back in October, so that's been
congrats.
taking most of my time. Thank you. But some of the things I've been working on, like I've gotten into music production electronically,
Nice.
which is a fun foray into like just imagination and what sounds can actually produce, which is pretty cool.
Definitely.
That's been an artistic expression, I guess. I haven't finalized anything yet, but I definitely have definitely some thoughts and some loose beats and songs that are in this in DAW is what it's called, which is like the platform you use to create the music. So
okay,
I
so
use
kind of like Fruit Loops back in the day.
Yes.
Yeah, I remember that from high school.
I'm back to FL Studio.
Nice.
I actually purchased it this time instead of
Nice.
sketchily trying to download some weird trial version.
Nice.
So I can actually have the full feature set of FL Studio or Fruity Loops Studio.
That's awesome.
That's been really fun, and that kind of dovetails into my new job now that I'm in the music industry. I work for
I didn't know that.
Gibson Guitars or Gibson Brands,
Nice.
which is a portfolio of guitar companies and pro audio.
Very
and
cool.
So that's been a fun alignment of like passion to career, which is pretty cool.
That's fantastic that your day job can kind of integrate with your hobbies and passions, and that's awesome, man.
Yeah, a little bit. I now am starting to learn guitar, which I never thought I would do ever because I used to be a drummer.
Nice.
But I mean, I work for a guitar brand. I feel like I have to learn how to play guitar. So that's been
It's
a fun.
It's not obligatory, but
adventure.
Almost.
Right. It's not mandatory, but there's some looks on video calls if you don't have a guitar in the background, which I do have one in the background. So.
If you
nice.
need to cut that off center. So what kind of genres do you play with the music that you're making then? What do you like to jam and do?
Right now I really enjoy electronic music, like all types of genres, subgenres in that, which is fun. I was a DJ in college time, a mix
C-dub.
of DJ C-dub. So I did mix a lot of electronic music then, made some like mashups and just hour-long mixes. Now as I'm getting into actual music production, electronic music is fun because you're creating sounds, which I feel like, you can create sounds with guitars and make it sound different, but a guitar is going to sound like a guitar, right? But when you have electronically produced music, you're basically coming up with your own sounds. You can adjust, different levels to make a certain bass sound very, scratchy or very deep, or like you can kind of create, like the world's your oyster in a way, which is super fun.
That's really cool.
And I've also been playing with like old school hip hop lo-fi beats. Because I feel like a lot of like roots of a lot of music actually come from lo-fi, like old school records, mixing and matching those. So that's kind of those two genres, like EDM and then lo-fi hip hop.
Very cool.
It's pretty fun.
That's awesome. That's really cool, man. So what are some of your goals with the music production? Do you have any certain kind of posts along the way that you want to kind of things you want to check off your goals list with that?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely want to have a finished song. That's the first goal, right? Since I'm kind of early on in the process. And kind of the beauty of now being in the music industry, like one of our web developers is a really awesome music producer. So I can start to get, tips and tricks from him, from some of my coworkers, and actually have somewhat of like mentorship in a way, very unformalized, but I have someone I can refer to. Whereas before it was YouTube.
Yes.
So just going to YouTube, how to create bass line for EDM song, and then trying to learn on how to create that. I had a lot of early mornings before work trying to watch YouTube videos and learn some of that. But, you get to a point where you just want to ask questions. So
Yes.
I'm really happy I have that now, but that's definitely in terms of goals. First song, and then just playing with the genres and subgenres of songs to see what sticks and what I like personally, what actually expresses, internally, what I feel, I guess. And then
That's awesome.
that's really the main goal. I don't really have much goals past that because it's been so long just trying to get to that one goal.
Right.
And I think it's an interesting dichotomy, trying to balance between things like making music and, what actually brings in or pays the bills, brings in the money, like the day job.
Yep.
And, I get distracted very often as well. Like, I do
course.
enjoy playing video games. And so, when Cyberpunk 2077 came out, I was like, I guess I'm going to be playing this for a bit. Put music production off to the side.
How'd that work for you? I heard that game was really buggy and that a lot of people had some issues with it.
So I have an Xbox Series X, and it sounds like I've had a good experience. Like, there's been some funny bugs, but nothing that's like game breaking or changes my experience. Like, I had one guy just like floating in a seated position, like across the screen. It's really funny, but it didn't like impact gameplay at all.
Nice.
I have read a lot of like, hey, this is why we don't rush developers to launch a game that isn't ready.
Yeah.
Which, funny concept.
Right.
But it just speaks to the downside of social media and us actually having a voice and trying to meet consumers and, board members or people that are actually invested. They're like, listen, this, we're millions of dollars in the hole. We need to launch this game so then we can make that money.
Right.
But me personally, it's been fun. It's been
Nice.
it's a good game.
That's
Speaking
awesome.
of storytelling, like, RPGs,
yeah,
you can do a lot of things
awesome
in that game.
Well, there's so many cool things that you can do with like I don't know if you guys will watch a particularly bad or egregious movie or even a video game or something like that, and it's like, this is so awful, but I love the concept. Like, I love where this world could go.
Yeah.
And like that's always a fun thing for me. But I mean, that also leads back into art. Like, I don't know if how much you listen to punk rock or not, especially the real old stuff. But like, the Stooges rolled into their first album and they had not written a single song. They've been working together for like a year in and around, Michigan and the like, and they didn't have songs. They just got up and kind of jammed, learning the instruments as they played.
That's pretty awesome.
I really dig that kind of mentality. So the thing I like about EDM is that can be as clean or as gnarly as you want it to sound.
Yeah.
Like, if you want to get a real raw sound out of something, you crank the gain on something and you just really make that thing sing. I love that mentality with it. Learn as you play.
For sure. And that's the fun part about a lot of just like, I guess, art in general, but really anything is artistic if you think about it, but like expression of yourself in a way, because you can be like, oh, today I'm feeling happy. I'm going to make like a tropical EDM song. Like, with xylophones, and today I'm feeling depressed and I'm going to make a really hard song that makes you feel depressed. Like it can vary so much. Right. And if you've ever been to an EDM concert, it's also an experience.
That's awesome.
It runs that gamut.
Yeah, exactly.
Very cool. Very cool. Have you been doing any writing? I know that back in the day we co-wrote a zombie novel, Only the Strong, way back in the day.
Yes, we did. Still available on Amazon Kindle.
It is.
For those of you listening.
Put a link in the description.
Yeah. Granted, we haven't touched it in 12 years, and I'm sure it could have used a few more revisions. But
it has been that long. My goodness. It has been 12 years. Wow.
Yeah.
Time flies.
For writing, I have, talking about hopes and dreams, I do have some ideas of writing in my head. Most of it's kind of more non-fiction. I've gone more, I guess, businessy since the times of writing zombie novels. Just in terms of seeing opportunity in just knowledge. Hey, you can actually get any career you want, but here's steps you have to take to get there. Or here's some things that, people look for. Like if you're in college, I had an undergrad in Spanish, so I should have had no right to get an internship in marketing at a outdoor sporting goods company. That just doesn't mesh up. Somehow I did. And now I'm in the music industry. There
you go. There's
a lot of, I feel just ideas that I have of my journey along that path that I want to share in some way, shape, or form of long form written content. So that's kind of where my head's at in terms of writing.
I'd read that book because that's fascinating. So
yeah, I mean, it's, and that's what, as a marketer, as I've been in this industry for a bit, just in marketing in general, people love storytelling. If you tell a really good story, regardless of if you're a brand, a person, even video games or music producer, if there's a story involved, you can grab people's attention. And I really, really love that aspect of storytelling from a personal perspective. Because then it's hey, I went through this. You can too.
Yeah. You make people feel something and it gives you feedback, and it's a really fulfilling feeling for sure.
Yeah, exactly. And I've written some short form content, blog posts or LinkedIn articles on stuff like that. And it's really fun writing stuff. It's fun to get back into writing stuff, even if it's short form. It's fun to express yourself with words. Hence why it's fun Dungeons and Dragons via Discord and text. It's really fun expressing yourself with words.
Definitely. Well, and that's the fascinating part about storytelling is all the same elements that make it good. They really apply regardless of medium. Yeah. Characters, emotions, stuff that grabs you. It translates to all the many mediums of storytelling, which is really cool.
For sure. And I think one interesting thing about written word is you can interpret it in 100 different ways. It all depends on who's reading it, what situation that person is in reading it. They may be in a really great part in their life and it's just cool. This is cool stuff to read. They may need something from what you're writing. Even if it's a fictional work of written content, there's something to be taken from whoever's reading it.
Definitely.
Well, Neil Gaiman kind of talks about that. I'm taking a master class of his right now, which is, he's one of my favorite authors just in general, but just got done with his lesson on short fiction. And I've never really been much one for short stories in particular, but he said something that kind of sparked my interest there, which is short story can be looked at as it's the last chapter of a novel that you haven't written. So it's all self-contained. It's got the beginning, middle, and end. And I feel like if you're going into nonfiction, I majored in history in college, writing an essay or writing an article or something that studies a particular facet of the human experience really does need to have that same kind of short story feel in order to get people involved with it. Because I mean, that's the problem that most people have with history or a course or something to that effect. Making it relatable, making it something that hits somebody where they live it's a real art right there.
Yeah,
For sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think on that note of just storytelling in general, one of the other things I'm doing right now, I'm taking a course or part of a group, I guess, for like keynote speaking. So yes, virtual keynotes exist right now. That's where we're at. There will be events in the future. But one of the things that we've learned in that is everyone has a story. It's just how you tell it. And that really hit home with me, because it's like, I've been struggling in a way of like, okay, if I was to be hired to give a keynote at an event, what would I talk about? And it's like, we have different layouts of keynotes. There's like 3 points that you should hit home. What are the 3 points? I don't know. So it's been really fun exercise to think of my own journey in life and try to pick out some learnings, or what even I need help with and how I would be able to talk to that. So that's been a fun adventure too, because it's really, I've wanted to improve my public speaking just in general. And so I have a friend that I met who is a keynote speaker, and he started this course, hence connection. But it's been really fun to get out of my comfort zone and actually like reflect and try to think of, okay, you're hired to give a 60-minute keynote. What are you going to talk about?
60 minutes is a grueling long time when you're the one talking. Yeah.
Exactly. So
that's cool.
Yeah, it's all about like that storytelling, and the fact that everyone really does have a story and can impact and create lives, regardless of the medium you use, like using the medium that is most natural to yourself, right? So, for you, Josh, it might be writing fiction stories, novels, things like that. I don't know. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's writing screenplays. For myself, maybe it's giving a keynote or writing a book on my own life. I don't know. Still trying to figure out what's natural to me. But it's really fun figuring out what those stories are.
That's awesome. Very cool.
Well, so when it comes down to music, when it comes down to writing or speaking in general, is there a unifying driver for that for you? Like, what is it that interests you to create these kind of things for other people, for yourself? What's your drive?
It's going to sound really weird and kind of a little markety, but I want to add value to people. Like, I just want to provide value. If I can help one person in some way, shape, or form, I'll be happy. Like, that's kind of where I sit, because adding value can take so many shapes and forms, and it's all in the eye of the beholder. So, you might not know how you add value to someone, but if I can create some work that adds value to someone, I'll be happy. Like, that'll be fulfilling to me. And that's kind of my driver. And that probably has to do why I chose with this career path, because we're always talking about how can we add value to the consumer, right? In marketing, like, how can we add value? So that's probably what pulled me in this direction. But in all of like hobbies and like producing things, that's kind of what I have in mind as I produce whatever it may be.
That's awesome. That's really cool to make you think about what you want to accomplish with your art and the things you're putting out. And the fact that you have that core value already instilled, like, that's a really strong foundation to build off of.
Yeah. And
it's really cool.
And I feel like without a foundation, and I'm not saying like adding value is everyone's foundation, but I feel like without having a foundation that drives you to do something, it's hard to progress through like writer's block or, production block for music, and I've definitely felt that firsthand, and it's been that foundation has been shaken up a few times. So if you ask me again and next year, it may change. I don't know. I feel like adding value just seems to be like a good strong point, and that I can keep referring back to.
Well, and I've known you for over 10 years. I definitely think that correlates to who you are as a person, because you're always you want to include people and have fun, but you always want to have fun with other people and make sure they're having as much fun as you are, which a lot of people don't have that value. So that's a really cool thing about you. And so I can definitely see how that translates into your work and the way you approach your production. So that's really cool.
I appreciate that, Josh. Yeah, it's funny you say that. When you mention that, I think of, okay, like I enjoy video games. They're fun. I enjoy them the most when I'm playing with people.
Yeah.
Like my brother-in-law, he's currently living by himself because he's on site at a job, and he always texts me. He's like, "Hey, should we play tonight?" I'm like, "Heck yeah!" And it's just fun to play with him, to like add value, even though we're wasting time and probably brain cells. It's fun to just have that connection. And
if you think about it, you're creating a story with him as you play.
Ooh, there we go.
Not wasting. There you go.
Love it.
Yeah, it's still a social interaction. That's important in its own right.
For sure.
Awesome. Well, that's our half-hour time limit. Caleb, thank you so much for coming on the show. We really appreciate having you here today.
Of course.
This is a great podcast, episode number 2 of our podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for coming on there, Caleb.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me, guys.
Yep.
Appreciate you all.
You guys have a good one. Thanks so much.
Same to you.